Hey Bookworms, welcome back to the channel and welcome if you're new. I'm Sam and today we're going to be doing my top reads of 2022 so far. So everyone seems to have been doing these videos last month and I'm a bit behind, but I thought, you know what, it's better to do it now than never, so here we are. I've only got about 7 books here that I gave 5 stars to because I've been a lot stricter with giving 5 stars. Last year I normally rated the books straight away that I've read them, and then I'd sort of change my mind on those ratings. And also last year at this point I think I read about 50 books. This year I've kind of done this thing to where I read the book and then I go away for an hour or a day and then go back and rate it then, and I feel like that's definitely working better. And I've read about 25, 26 so far, but the last few months I have been in a lot of pain, so it's just been a lot harder to concentrate on reading. Anyway, I'm going to shut up and jump straight into the first book that is a favourite from this year, and that is Good Girl, Bad Blood. This is a sequel to Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I kind of predicted that. Did I say that right? I kind of predicted that this was going to be a 5 stars, and I was correct. This book is just such a good sequel. There's so much going on in it, and I listened to the audiobook as I read it as well, just because I did that with the first book, and I'm just used to the voices now. They just fit the characters. Honestly, this book is just brilliant. The ending, the twist that happened, the reveal, I just didn't see coming. And that's something that Holly Jackson, I forgot what her name was then. Holly Jackson does really well. She creates these twists that you just don't see coming, that you figure that out and you haven't. And then boom. It's like a big shock. And this one, the way it ended, makes me really excited to read the last one in the series. But I'm really nervous to jump into that one. But it's one of the books that I do want to read this year, and maybe sooner than later. So yeah, Good Girl's Guide to Murder, we follow Pip again. She's back investigating the disappearance of a friend. I don't want to say too much about it other than it's very similar to the first book, except it's not. And we got all our favourite characters back. There's a lot of stuff going on, and Pip kind of doesn't want to be back into that world of investigating just because of what happened in the first book, but she feels like she has no choice, and yeah, that's where it pretty much begins. I absolutely love these characters so much, and I plan to read more from this author in the future. Next up is November 9 by Colleen Hoover, my first ever book that I read by this author, and honestly that's shocking because everyone's pretty much read most of her book. This is the first one that I read and I kept putting it off, and wow. I just don't know why, because this ended up being a favourite. I absolutely love the 2 characters in this story, and normally I don't like books that are like characters falling off pretty quickly, but this is based over a certain time period and it was just done very realistically. What I loved most about this book was the big twist that happens. That honestly shocked me and I could not have seen that coming. It was just a really enjoyable read. We follow a character called Fowlin and Ben who meet on November 9 when he pretends to be her boyfriend because she's at this restaurant with her dad, and the dad's kind of being a bit of a douche towards her, like he's not being very nice, so Ben sort of steps in and pretends to be her boyfriend, and then they kind of agree to meet every year on November 9th, which obviously a lot of stuff happens in between all this. It's not like just straightforward. Ben is planning to write a book and I think it's about them. There's a lot of twists that happen in this book that I did not see come in, and I just wondered how it was going to work, how she'd make this work, that they're only meeting up on this one day, and she managed to do it perfectly. So if you've not read this book yet, highly recommend it. I'm actually planning to do a video where I read the rest of her book. I just haven't got around to doing it yet. It's probably going to be done over the next 3 months, so yeah. Next up is No Exit. This book took me almost a year to get my hands on a copy. So when it finally came in stock, I was like, yep, I've got to get that one. I didn't really want this cover. If I hadn't got it at the time, I could have been waiting like another year just to get the cover that I wanted. So yeah, I gave in and got this book, and I think I read it within the month, or maybe it was like 2 months after. I'm not too sure. I was very nervous about going into this one because of how hyped it was and how excited I was, and sometimes I've been really excited for something and just been let down. But this is such a heart-stopping thriller with so many twists. It's intense. There's a lot of violence in it as well, but it is just it was worth the wait. It was worth the hype, and I absolutely love the character Darby. We follow Darby, who has to stop off at this rest stop in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a storm, no cell service, and there's I think 5 other people there, and and she ends up needing to go out to go and try and make a phone call, and she ends up finding a little girl in a cage in the back of a fan, and now she needs to figure out how she's going to get this little girl out and figure out who the kidnapper is. The back doesn't do it justice of how brilliantly this works. because it is just set around this one rest stop area. Not once was it like boring. It was just intense. Like I remember feeling so tense reading this that I was like, okay, because it just keeps going and it's like, damn. And it doesn't even take that long to get into it. It is honestly such a good read, and if you've been thinking about reading it and you haven't yet, I highly recommend it. I would recommend reading this though before you watch the movie. But yeah, I absolutely love this book, and I love the character Darby. She's such a kick-ass, brave character. I don't think I'd be brave enough to do some of the stuff that she does, but this is so good. Next up is The Nature of Witches. Now, this book, I think my partner focused on me reading it, and I think he also bought me this for my birthday. I was like, you know, sometimes I really enjoy witch books, but they're never really like 5 stars. But this one was just really unique and different. We follow a character called Clara. Is at this school for witches, and each witch has a season. So they're most powerful in their season, and then when it's not their season, their magic isn't as strong, and if they try to use their magic, they can be depleted. I think that's the right word. But Clara is, I'm going to forget the name of it. Where is she? One sec. So Clara basically is strong throughout each season, but she's learning to still use her powers, and they're trying to train her because she can be like one of the most powerful witches there is. And she struggles through this book of trying to gain control of her powers, and she goes through so much. This book kicks off straight away. You're not like just waiting for something big to happen. It kicks off and it gets into action straight away. We have this like twister that happens, and obviously she's trying to help, but she's just not quite connected to her powers. And they bring in this boy around her age, I think he's around her age, to help like sort of train her. There's romance, there's friendships, there's past secrets, and a lot of action in this book. I loved this book. I can't imagine another book about witches topping this one, because this is just so brilliantly thought out. And not only that, look at the dust jacket when the dust jacket's off. How beautiful is that? It's just, I don't know, I just feel like the author thought of something and did something different. I don't know if this has been done before. I haven't read anything that has, but for me this was just very unique, very compelling, and just captivated my attention till the very end. And I hope to read more from this author in the future. I actually think she has another book coming out, so I'm definitely going to be picking that one up. But yeah, if you've not read this one, you've got to pick it up. I'm going to say that about all of these because obviously they're my favourite. But yeah, next up is a book that I read this month that I kept putting off because of its size and because it's the last book in a series, and that is Gods and Monsters. Oh my god, I don't know why I put this off, because this is so perfectly written, and going back into this world and seeing these characters again, well, reading these characters again and just continuing it off from where the last book ended was just perfect. I was not disappointed one bit by this book, and that's one of my worries with this book. I was like, oh, what if it's not as good as the last two? What if I'm disappointed? What if I don't like it the way it's ended? I wasn't disappointed. There were so many twists that happened. There's plenty of action. It just fit so well, and the ending was just done so right. And the epilogue, if you've read this, you'll know what I mean. The epilogue was perfect. If you've not read this series, you've got to read it, because it's one of my favourite fantasy series. I'm going to be doing a separate video next week or the week after where I talk about this series in more detail. I'm not too sure if I'm going to like have it contain spoilers. If I do, I'll have a spoiler warning. I'm not too sure yet, but yeah, I will be giving a more sort of review video, and if it's worth reading, which it is, in that video. But yeah, we follow Lou, Reed, Coco, and Bew. I can never say his name. And it kicks off straight away from where the last book left off. This series is absolutely incredible, and every single book has been a 5 star. So I'm so glad that I finally picked this up, but I'm also sad because it's over. But her next book, which is a new series, is set in the same world, so kind of excited for that. So next up are 2 books that actually came out this year. And I don't have many books that came out this year that I rated 5 stars. I've probably given them 4 stars, which is still like a favourite, just not favourite, right? So the first one is Oni a Monster. Now, I picked this book up based on the fact that I was like, it sounds interesting, and a lot of people are raving about it, and I thought, you know, I'll give it a chance. If I don't like it, I can send it back if I'm in the right time zone to still send it back. Oh my god, I love it. I'm kind of sad that I don't have the special edition one for it though, because I need it. But yeah, we follow a character who discovers that her family has a big secret. They are classed as monsters. Monsters are people that steal time from humans in order to travel in time. And our main character, whose name, again, I forget, Joan. She ends up discovering that she has this power and this ability and she doesn't like it. Joan has this thing for this guy who works at this museum with her, but then she starts to discover that he might not be exactly who she thought he is. And she's then forced to work with her family's like enemy family in order to fix something that happens. But I think for me, what I loved the most was the time travel aspect of this and just how it went from the modern time and then travel back in time and how it was described perfectly. It was done really, really well. I know some people said that they were kind of disappointed by the abilities, but I don't feel like I was really disappointed. And the ending for me was just brilliant. And I believe that there's another book in the series coming out and I can't wait. If you're into like time travel, forbidden romance, enemy to lovers, that sort of thing, then definitely pick this up because it's worth the read. I still feel like if you're not normally into that stuff, you might still enjoy this one. And the final book on this list is The No-Show. I did a reading vlog for this one, so if you want a bit more details on how I felt when I was reading it, you can definitely go and check out that video, which I would definitely recommend doing. I have no spoilers, of course, so you can check it out and not worry about that. But this book is probably the one that took me by surprise the most. I just did not think that I was going to go into this book and love it as much as I did. Holding this book just reminds me of everything that happened in it, and my heart feels like it's shattering all over again. I cried, and I just, oh my god. We follow these three characters, Chiffon, Miranda and Jane, and it starts off on Valentine's Day and they're all supposed to be meeting a guy called Joseph, except he doesn't turn up. And it pretty much goes from there. Now, my opinion on Joseph at the beginning of this book was not good. But then by the end of the book, you completely understand him. And I just did not see it coming. There's this massive twist that happens. All the secrets start to get revealed. And you can just tell that Beth O'Leary put so much thought and effort into it and planned it out. Honestly, this book is just perfect. And I can never imagine another Beth O'Leary book topping this one, to be honest. Because this is probably one of those books that's up there like an all-time favourite. I want to read this again, but I'm still like recovering. I read this last month in April and my heart still feels broken from it because, wow, I did not expect what happened to happen. And oh my god, when it all starts to get explained, I was just like, oh my god. Honestly, a masterpiece. Like, it's just surprising. It's well thought out. The characters are just well written. Like, each of them stand out from each other. You can tell who's who from just reading from their point of view. You don't even need to read like the header with their name to know it's their chapter, because you can just tell. Definitely check out the content one as well, I'd say, before reading this one, because it does deal with like stuff like miscarriage, and it has a character who has dementia in it and a few other things, so definitely check that out first. But yeah, this book took me by surprise the most, and it's like I said, up there with all-time favourite. It's more than likely going to be on my top 15 books or top 10 of the year because this was so good. So that's my top books of 2022 so far. It's crazy that I only have 7 5-stars here, and I have other favourite books that are 4 stars, but I just want to include my absolute favourite so far this year. And I'd love you to let me know if you've read any of these and you felt the same, or just let me know what books were your favourites from this year so far, and maybe I'll check them out. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you did, hit that like button, and until next time, bye.